Let's have it.
Hey, what's happening? Is this Antoine on the other end? Is that who I'm talking to? Antoine Holman?
The one and only Antoine Senior.
That's you. Okay, yeah. So this is you, and then who am I again, man? I don't remember mine at the time.
Fresh LaBreche.
Fresh LaBreche. Hey, I could go by that. This is LaBreche. This is Fresh LaBreche, huh? Could we bill ourselves that Antoine and Fresh LaBreche? Would that be okay? I think that could be a marketing mirror. What? I'm sorry. That could be a marketing.
It's done,
doesn't it? That could be a bonanza, man. I could see billboards with that on it. Join Antoine and Fresh LaBreche every Saturday morning or whenever, But anyways, yeah, fun, yeah, I'd be okay with that too. So here we are on, the frame of reference thing again with the, we're coming together to do this frame of reference thing. Antoine does a great job of describing this. We're just a couple of guys that are not experts by any means in anything other than what we've seen in our lives. And the one thing I see in my life about black people and white people getting together is we just do not understand each other and what people come from because we don't have that background any more than I can understand what a woman experiences as a woman. Any man that thinks he's, has got it together with, oh, I'm so sensitive to their issues, that can be like really disruptive to people. If you say that to the wrong woman and you are going to get your head bit off because you cannot know what it's like. So, here we are just trying to kind of give our perspectives on it, right? I mean, and say, I don't know how you feel about that, but hopefully you'd like to see the world be a little nicer place. And I'd like to see it be that way. And we might have something that'll help you. So
absolutely.
I'm thinking that, on
conversation.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, just saying, hopefully provoke some thought that more look-ins than what they are accustomed, and just say, wow, I know that. I did not understand that. Or like that light bulb moment where, oh, now why that behavior or that situation or that thing is about and stuff. Like I say, just two regular guys, Earth, but would both have different life experiences, and some are to the table. Raul have very open about our own personal life with the hope, giving people understanding that we're not too much.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, right? Isn't it? In my mind, the thing I've enjoyed about our conversations is that number one, I don't, anyone I talk to, I don't have their experience. I just don't know. I don't care, what your nationality or religion, you just don't know. What people's perspective is. And like that old saying, two heads are better than one. Two frames of reference, two people's, different experiences and ways of seeing the world can be really helpful because now we're going to speak to not just the people that understand how I see, which who knows if there's anyone out there going, man, he's got a really, but there's somebody, there could be somebody's listening regularly out there that's going, yeah, he makes a good point. But then from my perspective, I get your perspective on things and I go, I never thought of it that way. That makes sense. I can see why someone would think about it that way. And that's important to consider the fact that you do think about it differently. You do have a different perspective. And it's not just media hype or it's not just, I've made that point before. If anyone doesn't, is watching the news and not realizing that the news is crafted for a particular point of view and a particular bias, and they look at the numbers that say these are the episodes, this is the information that people want to see, so we're going to do more of it. Look at these five guys that ended up getting killed in the submarine or submersible. Sorry, it's not a submarine, but we followed that for a week. People wanted to know more about that whole thing. So the media just had a heyday with that and giving people what they want. And media today is no different than hamburgers. McDonald's came on a formula for hamburgers that people really liked, and now they've sold literally billions of them. Well, guess what? Media is the same way. Now, here we are, though, with frame of reference coming together. I'm not tied. Antoine's not tied to any constituency of sponsors that are saying, we don't like you doing more. Hey, do that story more. We're just talking about things that matter. and I can talk about my family and my family's perspective on our topic today, right? Which is crime. And white people tend to look at crime as being a different animal caused for different reasons by different people than black people do, right? Am I wrong there, Antoine?
Mm-hmm.
Antoine and I were talking. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, just saying, because nullified, it has projected, and it's just itself, or the crime is used to create an action. We're just talking before we came on. When we talk about crime as is a narrative, who's presiding over our crime? You got those types. Yeah, misdemeanor. It could be a felony. It could be a felony misdemeanor, or it could be an infraction. Sometimes it's crime. How it is dealt with
and defined. We were talking about the whole issue of drug addiction and how when the media describes the crack epidemic, and we came up with things like crack baby to put a derisive or to make the people that were addicted to crack, women that were addicted, and anyone that's been addicted to anything knows that addictions are just horrible things that victimize people because they're in situations where whatever escapism, they want to feel better, and drugs give them a way to feel some sort of euphoria. I mean, that the reason things become addictive is because just like going out with your friends and drinking too much. If you start drinking too much too often to relieve stress, guess what? You're going to get addicted to alcohol. You're going to become an alcoholic. It's just the way those things work. But we depicted that derisively, that like these people are how could a mother do that to her baby, right? And that's a real issue. That happens, and it is a horrible thing. But we are trained to not see it. Whereas with the opium epidemic, heroin epidemic, that tends to be depicted in situations like West Virginia, where there are, people that were hurt in coal mines, guys that worked their buns off and ended up getting injured. And because they were injured, they got prescribed an opioid, whether it be, some sort of, cocaine or heroin, or, they don't call it that, but, there are things like Percocet, which is, a controlled substance, right? So people get prescriptions for that. And then over a period of time, the prescription runs out, or they lose their job because they can't work anymore. And now they can't get that. Well, guess what? When you get prescribed an opiate for a period of time, you're going to become addicted, and you don't like the pain. When you come off of it, the pain is, much less of an attractive proposition than taking the opioid. But my point in all that is because that whole story is, we tend to see that as those poor people, those poor guys. That's not fair. Why did that happen? So our perspective is crafted towards a sympathetic, compassionate, empathetic viewpoint instead of a judgmental, those people are awful. Now, you could just as easily flip that. You could just as easily look at the guys that, the dumb idiots. Why are they taking that thing? Why aren't they like, people that I know personally that have to take that because they're in severe pain too. And they purposely take as little as possible because they want to numb the pain, but they don't want to get addicted. They realize the dangers involved in that. So I could just as easily say, well, why can't they do like my friend did here and not get addicted? What kind of idiots are they? Well, that would be mean and cruel. And, you'd be like, what's his problem? And I could just as easily look at the women that, have children that are crack babies and say, those poor women, what's going on in their lives that, gosh, what can we do to help them so that doesn't keep happening to babies? That's just wrong. That's, we got to do something about that. No, we otherize them and turn them into animals or some kind of, mutant species that ought to know better. Okay, so come on, folks, think about it first. Think about it. What's going on with this? What is going on at the root of the whole thing? What's going on with this? Well, it's all designed to keep us apart, to keep us doing the same crap that we've been doing for literally hundreds of years, to be able to see the other side of the equation as being either we align with it and say, oh my, yeah, that's terrible, we should do something, or oh, those people we just wipe out those neighborhoods. We just need to get rid of whatever.
I just made a point where it's like when we're talking about went back to the 90s to now where, of course, the crack epidemic, it was criminal, it was a crime, but now opioid addiction is treated as a disease. Yeah. And again, it's about the narrative that has been created. It's like a doctor that misdiagnosed whatever ailment you prescribes a medication, that medication underlying existing issues, but it only exacerbates, just like a misdiagnosed compromises the public safety. A lot of these unsubstantiated crime narratives prevent us from understanding the fact contributing to crime. Of course, when we talk about poverty, just in generational poverty, all these different things that are factored. And again, I'll be the last to ever make an excuse for anyone doing anything wrong, but you got to understand the actual situation where a person is put in. Of course, because again, like what we're seeing now, going back even to the 80s, you remember when Mike Dukakis for president, they put that picture of Willie Green up. And it was, the purpose of it was, but what about, that was one side of talk about Bernie Madoff, so just kill people, take everything they have. And it just, one crime or one perception of crime is definitely treated than the other. That's why the crime can be how the crime is presided. And again, these narratives, like say, the Lindsey Grahams of the world who say, oh, we just need more aggressive prosecution, need to increase police funding. And then, of course, you have like the mayor of New York, I can't off the top, but he'll say something like, cut out bail bondsmen, people that are have been charged with a crime or are arrested and convicted of a crime can't get out of jail soon. So it's just different narratives. People come in at different, the narratives that are being set. Just like the doctor misdiagnosed a issue, we are misdiagnosing the causes of crime.
Well, and we're avoiding dealing with the causes of it. Ultimately, my thing that I do periodically, Antoine will corroborate this. I like to look at the definitions of words because we have a tendency to kind of have a general understanding of what the crime means, but I think it helps to crystallize how the word is actually described. So I looked up crime, and it has two primary meanings. One is an action or omission that constitutes an offense that may be prosecuted by the state, and as that is the fact, it's punishable by law. But the second definition is the one that I think hits on all the different levels of crimes that are being so. And that second definition is an action or activity that, although not illegal, is considered to be evil, shameful, or wrong. As in, they condemned apartheid as a crime against, or it's a crime to keep a creature like Willie in a tank. So we look at those things and say, all right, let's look at the opioid epidemic, right? So let's take that back a step. So where's the crime in that? The crime is in my mind, not the education of the person that's being prescribed the opioid. And we don't know for sure, but are those people being educated with, okay, here are the risks and here are the things that we want to do to monitor to try to control the addiction that's going to happen. Okay, so that's kind of a crime if that isn't happening in a way that really informs the taker of the medicine that is known to be addictive. It's just like the Surgeon General's warning that finally got put on cigarettes after years of the tobacco industry fighting that because they didn't want that knowledge of what cigarettes did to people, what the research clearly showed smoking did to people. They didn't want that information in people's hands. So who knows? Are the pharmaceutical companies behind wanting to make sure that education doesn't happen and telling the doctors, we would rather you not tell people. And if you don't, we'll give you a really good deal on Percocet. And then you take it another step back. What about the crime that's being committed by the medical industry that, to your point, Antoine, we aren't treating the root cause. We aren't doing the expensive procedures that might actually make a longer lasting impact on not only that person's pain, but that person's issues with functionality. Right. Make it more affordable for people to have those either corrective surgeries or other things that could help with that. And then on the crack side of it, why aren't we doing to help the poverty that these people are in? Why aren't we doing something to make the living conditions for the people that become crack addicts so that they're not as inclined to want to do that they're not as inclined to want to sell that? We talked about that too before we came on, about the guys that are selling this stuff. Well, think about it practically, folks. If you have an opportunity as a kid or a young guy to sell drugs to people that you can tell in your mind, hey, they want to buy it. All I'm doing is providing a service. I'm not, yeah, it's an illegal substance, but what the heck? They're going to buy it from me or they're going to buy it from somebody else. I'm not going to stop that. Or you can go make $15, $16, $17 an hour at McDonald's, or you can make $5,000 a week selling crack. Well, when you're living in the conditions that those folks are living in, what would you choose? I defy people that are listening right now that are in pretty, you're in decent situation. If you had a chance and you could get past what maybe you were trained by your mom to never do that, or your dad, but let's face it, kids that are in those situations, they don't have that kind of structure in their life that says, absolutely, my son, my daughter will not do that. So they're just, the moms and the dads are trying to survive themselves. They can't do, nor do that. They've been educated probably to do anything other than do what you have to survive in this world, man. Do what you have. That to me, those are the crimes.
Exactly. And of course, level or crime, or the type of who is alleged to perpetrate the crime. Of course, again, like say Big Pharma, they not only did this opioid addiction with something that was, but not only it was legal, yes. However, the data, and it was a crime, the fact that they lied, or like in that definition, omitted parts of what the effects were, which is addiction. But yet, because of the money that it generates, it is the narrative to our heads that, oh, well, it is not, this is a disease, or, oh, those poor workers that are in these, because understand this, let's just say a laborer working south side of Chicago falls off a roof. He's not going to get prescribed opioid. He's going to have to be dealt with the pain. It's just contribute to the factors of what we would a crime. And that's where it's disheartening. Because I'll say this, I've said this in a couple of our other, hey, I'm afraid of the crime, you the time, just point blank. Regardless of if you do the crime, you do but however, in a lot of instances, even looking at the news present day, a lot of various crimes that, again, like in that perceived as a crime, if morally wrong or whatever, however, the law is interpreted by XY crime inconsistency kind of comes in, because again, this thing has been the beginning of time, but yet we have to get to the deep. I believe that we have to get root cause when we say crime, the cause of it. And of course, this thing is going to go back but again, to address because we can put a Band-Aid on it by saying, oh, we can have tougher laws. We can do we can have stronger law enforcement. We can have a stronger law system. We can do all these different things. But root cause is going to cost money. Most powers that be don't want to spend the money because you don't want to acknowledge them. You acknowledge them. You have to spend the money to acknowledge them. Well, like let's just say in a lot of instances, use homelessness as an example. A lot of communities won't acknowledge they have a homeless problem. They have the problem would require them to spend money. And again, so what happens? Powers that be, local media, national media, whatever the case may be, will create a narrative that will actually deflect from the issue or project the issue onto another group or circumstance.
Yeah.
Totally. And again, it's like the stats.
Totally.
The stats on crime, again, it just kind of mislead, of course. So you got to think pre and post COVID when we talk about these numbers, because notice you only really hear about crime, the midterms and, during election time. That's when you start to hear,
to sway people.
And again, how many times have we said, Raul, don't people stop being single issue voters? Yeah. Hear the whole narrative, go fact check for yourself. Because remember, remember this official's name. He was in the state of New York, but he ran on the fact he was tough on crime, high crime, the number was crime, but had to testify in front of a committee. And then he had to eat his words and say, because he was questioned like, well, you said that crime was high and all these different things, but yet the numbers, there was a decrease. And he admitted, but did he did he lose his seat in that state legislature? No. Oh. And again, it's these this type of rhetoric leads to harmful, counterproductive that, you know, just harm people, particularly Black and brown.
Right.
You know, and of course, when we start, you know, peddling, but they get to peddling that tough on crime narrative, you know, it's not new in the time. But yet at the same time, we just need people to really research for themselves what's happening in their areas. Does crime exist? Absolutely, yes. But let's get the numbers yourself, but also start look underlying causes. Because when we start address the underlying causes, we're actually we're not just putting a Band-Aid on a thing or even exacerbating a crime by, like, you know, a person can, depending on the person, a crime can be either an infraction or it could be prosecuted depends on the narrative.
Or it could just be evil.
Yeah.
It can just be an evil, shameful thing. Yeah. You know, like that second deal, you know, like people ought to know better. Or, you know, people that have power and money ought to be able to be held responsible for the fact that, dude, what are you doing here? I get that, you know, you have to be profitable. I get that your business, if it doesn't make a profit, is not going to exist. Okay. I get that. I really do. That as a businessman myself, I understand that fundamental thing that goes on. But I mean, we'll look at the oil industry. You know, some people look at that and say, my God, it's an absolute crime that those oil Mongols, you know, the Saudis or whatever, are making all that money on oil when they know that it's polluting the skies and that it, you know, it's causing all kinds of problems. Now, if you don't believe in climate change, fine, but you know that smog is an issue, that it's hard for people to breathe in areas where there's tons and tons of cars. Why aren't they spending some of that money on developing alternative types of fuel? We have that ability to do it, and it would be much better for everybody involved. Well, you hit it on the head because you got to spend money to do that. And if there's one thing that you don't want to do is spend money when you don't have to spend. You would rather just collect the revenue. That's like the penultimate thing in business. If you can have a cash cow that just keeps feeding you money without spending any money, guess what? That means you make more money. And money builds money. I get it. That's fundamental. That's fundamental to how these things work. But at the end of the day, I ask people not only educate, but be aware of your bias. Because I remember hearing this one guy who was a writer for a show, and he said, you know, people talk about crime is increasing. And he said, you know, let's call it what it is. That means that Black people are doing more stuff. Or, you know, now that Black people moved into my neighborhood, the crime is going to increase. So we equate, for God's sake, people, we equate Blackness with crime. It's like you look in the dictionary, and if you looked up this definition of crime, some people would expect if they're being really honest, they put a picture of a Black person there. That would define all you needed to find about crime. Well, really? Seriously? That's what you talk about putting a face to things. That's how we put a face to it, folks, as white folks. And on the other side of the equation, I don't know, Antoine, when you look at crime, do you have, you know, brothers and sisters and friends that think about crime and think about what about the crimes that are being committed against us? You should put a white person there.
Oh,
sorry, you broke up there. I'm not catching you. Oh, he's coming back. Okay.
Like say the automotive or even the drug industry, right? You know, they'll say it's cheap. They do their. It's cheaper to pay a full death lawsuit than to fix the problem that exists with our product.
Yeah.
And that goes forever. Yeah. And it's still going. And now, if you tell me that should, like say with the emissions of automobiles, it's you know, we are trying to, you know, go in a different direction. However, people that have big pockets that are industry or that like the brothers that own rubber, basically saying, hey, we don't want people patient. We don't want high speed rail that will minimize in the air because it will kill our pockets and will stop buying our product.
Right.
And again, it's like the big part is it's like these factors have our politicians.
You broke up again. We are having problems this morning, folks.
Yes,
Apologize. We're having problems this morning with audio, folks. So if things drop out, we apologize. That's unfortunate, and we tried to solve it a couple of different ways. But if things drop out, be patient with us because we're aware of the problem. We're trying to fix it as we go along there. Right. Sorry.
Absolutely. And yeah, just really just getting facts for ourselves and really getting cause of a problem
and challenging yourself. I call on people to challenge your own belief system and what you've been led to believe, what biases of yours that you have been, fed to build, and what are you attracted to? Because I think honestly, information is an addiction too. We get addicted to a certain point of view and we want to feed that addiction. That's the only way to explain things like the different narratives, as you've been talking about over and over again, right? The different narratives, the different sets of facts. Both sides of any argument will choose very, very wisely, astutely, informed in a very informed way. They will choose the facts that they choose to represent when they present a story. And, both may be telling quote unquote truth, but when you take a fact outside of its context and present it in a certain way, you are building a bias. That's the way that stuff works. What we need to do is, that's why I like definitions, is when you go back to a situation like a crime and say, this is something that's shameful, it's, ethically wrong, morally wrong. People should feel like this just shouldn't happen, that we have that inside of each of us has that this just shouldn't happen. Then you got to look at how is an issue being presented by one side of the equation and how's it being presented by another side of that argument. And somewhere in the middle is probably the truth, because both sides of those are obviously biased. But if I believe something, and take any subject you want right now, Trump or Biden, okay, if you think Biden's a complete jerk and, what a moron, he's, old and feeble and it's falling all over the place, he gets lost when he's on stage, whatever, the stuff that's, said about him, or he's wrecking our economy, he's going to tax things, blah, blah, blah. Or you're on the Trump side of the equation. You say, poor President Trump, the election was stolen from him. He was, he was doing so much good for the country. He was, doing all these, things that just people didn't like. He was standing up to the Europeans. He was looking at, NATO and saying, you guys pony up for the money that you owe. He was trying to stop the problem with all these criminals getting through the border. There are some facts. There's some truth in all of that stuff. I get it. But what do you ever challenge yourself and say, well, wait a minute, what about these people? What if the stuff that the people that, are saying about the insurrection, what if these people that are talking about the classified documents and the top secret stuff President Trump is alleged and in some cases has admitted to having done? Is that a crime? Should he have done that as a president, or are we going to justify that? And on the other side, what if Biden is having issues, physical issues that impair his ability to be in one of the most important positions in the world? Are we willing to look at that and come up with another viable candidate on both sides of the equation? Can we come up with viable candidates that would help bring us together instead of continue to put the wedge deeper and deeper into the polarization? Because we will not. We will not. You cannot have a nation like the United States of America, which is a melting pot for all kinds of nationalities and cultures, and we have so much that is great. Great. So when people talk about make America great again, I want to say, do you want to look at another country and tell me another country that has got as much stuff going for it as America right now? Look at another country and tell me that there's anyone. Yeah, there are places like Norway that do some things really well with medicine. There are places like, France that have wonderful arts, and do a lot to cultivate arts. There are people like Germany that have wonderful things that are going on with their technology and advancement. In Israel, there are all kinds of great things all over the world. And America is the best at putting all that stuff together and trying the new thing. So we have all kinds of issues. All right, so I'm getting off on a point to make a point. That is, we need people that will bring that together and say, there are different points of view. that we need to consider and then make the best decision we can from being informed the best that. And as long as we allow ourselves to only feed ourselves and only look at the information that informs one side,
whether
it's your responsibility. Anyone that's listening right now, it is your responsibility to find the information, to challenge your bias, to say, okay, what do I think about this? Why do I think it? Number one, challenge it and say, why do I think it? And what's an alternative thing? What's an alternative way to look at it? What's a different frame of reference that I could use to help inform myself and my biases and my opinion in a better, more complete? That to me says it.
Well,
I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you because I get on my tirades, man. You know how I am. I'm a passionate, artsy guy, and I get going on things. My family will tell you I don't know how to shut up, but I'm shutting up, okay?
Oh, you're fine, man. This is all about, man, talking it out, and you have to paint the picture. You got three types of people in sales. Auditory, have visual people.
Yeah. And you know that, right? You do real estate sales. You know that whole deal, right?
People can have that in there. Yep. But going back, saying that makes a point where you look at Trump in his situation with top secret documents. You look at the opioid, pharmaceutical. You look at the automotive. When we're talking about a challenge, regardless of it's a white collar, it's a black blue collar crime, whatever you try to call it, you got to ask yourself that committed this thing. Did they do it knowingly? Did they do it purposely? Or was it just reckless and negligent? All four are bad. Most cases, again, we use the documents, use the automotive industry as they knowingly know that, airbags are defective or this thing about their vehicle is defective, but it's going to be just to pay a family X amount of dollars recalling all these vehicles and then thus crushing our marketability.
I lost you again. Dang it.
Products are affected by, again, with the pharmaceuticals, with the products. Why do you think the meat people that are produced, boy, they fight the USDA up and down, left and right, what all is going on with our food?
Well, we talk about regulation, right? That's why we have regulations. So people don't like government interference.
These things are, a crime is a crime, depending on the level of it. It could be committed knowingly, but yet, is it prosecuted? And that's where we really look at the differential when it comes to crime or interpretation of crime. You made a great point earlier. It's again, crime has, when you say crime, you think criminal, you think black. And
when I think of criminal, a lot of times nowadays, honestly, I think about,
Which I believe Raul, we're both saying is a challenge to say, hey, regardless of the color of the pen or the position of the class of, say, did they knowingly mislead from the truth? Did they do this purposely? Because if you can answer that question, you cannot beat a possible crime has been. And yeah,
let's look at the auto industry for just take another crime. Okay, you could constitute it as a crime. The issues of moving all of our manufacturing. Or a lot of our manufacturing, superlatives like that. Anyways, big companies make a decision to move production of cars or all kinds of things to areas of the world where they can produce those things for less money and they can produce those things for greater profit. All right. So if you're working in Detroit and all of a sudden your factory closes down, or you're working here, I live in Wisconsin. If you're working in Janesville, Wisconsin, and, GM closes a plant down there because they can make the same thing with acceptable quality control in Mexico or China or Malaysia or Thailand, wherever, and pay the laborers considerably less than what we're paying people in the U.S. for a livable wage here. And granted, the standard of living and the cost of living in the U.S. is considerably higher than in those places. But what are you going to do? If you're a businessman, if it's your business and you want to make a profit and your stockholders are saying we want greater dividends, you're going to move. You're going to take the expense, the big hit of putting a factory in those places because you can make more money. That doesn't negate the crime that you've committed against your own people, the workforce that's been with you. But now let's take a step further back. What about the crime that's being committed when the people that are set as your union, as your protecting organization that's supposed to negotiate the best wages for you possible. What if those people aren't giving you all the information as a worker that you need to say to your union leaders, hey guys, I think we got to listen more to the heads of this, because in this situation, I think they're right. We can't afford, as a company, we can't afford the kind of, negotiation we're asking, because it's going to get to the point where they're not going to be able to afford, and their stockholders are going to insist that they do something to make more money. On the other hand, what about the businessmen? What the crime that those CEOs are committing to not say when they could, hey, we're making record profits. We need to turn more of that back to our, we're sorry, stockholders, we're putting up your, we're going to cut back your dividend because we want to reward our staff that's working so hard to give the products that are selling so well for us. And that all traces back to, if you want to look at something interesting, look at how in the 19th century, early 19th century, we looked at leaders as people that had integrity, that were ethical people, that were, worried about and worked on things like building a consensus between different points of view, like Abraham Lincoln. He was excellent at bringing people together from very different points of view, people that would argue with him vehemently. He wanted those people together in his cabinet so that he would make the best informed decision. That character of a guy that grew up in lean-tos, okay? Abraham Lincoln grew up in lean-tos, basically three-sided, log cabins with a piece of leather hide as one wall in the winter in Kentucky. All right. So he had that kind of background, versus then what happened later in the 19th century was you had people like Carnegie and was it not JP Morgan? I don't know, maybe it was JP Morgan, who made huge amounts of money in the steel industry, the oil industry, and they were not necessarily the most ethical people. Carnegie, he admitted earlier in his life, he was a jerk, and became then a huge philanthropist because he saw the error of his ways. Morgan, I don't know, ever got there. He really liked having that all, creating that empire. So we went from thinking people were good leaders, were ethical, good people, to people that were really competent, good businessmen. And that's the world we live in today. We still have not gotten the thing through our head that I want to vote for people. When I vote for people, honestly, I don't vote Democrat or Republican. I look at the character of the person that's seeking to be my representative, and I try to find the best person and do the research that I need to do to figure out just the best person. Because at the end of the day, it's your character that will determine how you look at regulations, legislation, whatever, and how you determine, what's the right thing to do. And very difficult. It's your character, not your competence, that's going to determine,
when you were, you made a great point when you were talking about companies leaving areas and leaving the country for financial gain. So, because again, you look at a crime as criminal, like you said, I'll use when I right out of high school, work at a big manufacturer, these things called Lunchables.
Yeah. So I eat Lunchables.
Those Lunchables, of course, what they started to do, because they had to pay us $13, and I ended up moving Fullerton, California, had to pay $6.50, and then of course that was was it illegal for them to try to grow that? No, again, the interpretation of a crime, immoral, but at the same time also to give their stockholders a better margin, but also
better dividends.
Crime that is knowingly committed over and over again is these companies not paying their taxes.
Right.
And then it's amazing how these companies that don't pay their fair share of taxes, they move their money all over the world to avoid paying tax. And then, of course, the politicians elect into office will actually help them help them to minimize their liability. But yet, when it comes, again, these things are being done knowingly and purpose. That's where, like, talking about people have to know what they're voting for.
Follow the money. Follow the money.
Best interest because of a political or a charismatic convinced you of a thing. But again, now that's a crime. And it is a crime of. I'm not gonna base my company, put my company's address in some little name because they don't do, but I'm operating globally, making billions of dollars, but I don't pay taxes because, I'm stationed over. Right. And then, of course, then the politicians say, well, you know what? You're right. And not only we'll put some laws in place where your tax loophole remains the same. And then thus where we are right now. You know, you look at Kristen Sinema. She refused to vote against a bunch of good policy as far as voting rights and a lot of other things. She wanted the tax loophole open for the wealthy. Now, and again, Kirsten Sinema, she's a Democrat, right? But this, like I said,
now she's independent.
This on both sides.
Yeah. Well, and let's take that Fullerton thing. That's another great example of how the narrative is crafted in a certain way depending on what news source you look for the truth, whatever that is. And the fact of the matter is, they moved to where? Fullerton, California. What do you think they use for a workforce there in Fullerton, California that's different than, here in Wisconsin? It was Latinx folks that were willing to take a job for $6.50 an hour because it's a whole lot more than they would make in Mexico, which, oh, by the way, that wall that we want to build, there's a lot of people right now that you think the wall isn't getting built because the Democrats are awful people. The wall isn't getting built, which we could talk about the wall too and what problems that solves and what it doesn't solve when you look at that thing and what's going on with it all. But the reality is there are a lot of people, heck, here in Wisconsin, that we don't check their papers because if we check their papers and find out that they're here illegally, we're not going to get the crops out of the fields right now, because the reality is that the folks that are either not available, the guys just don't want to do that work because farming is tough work. It is back-breaking work. There are not a lot of people that want to do that work, but the Latino folks that are in our area, they'll take the work. That's good work for them. That's good money for them. They're happy to take those jobs. So what are you going to do? If you're a farmer, you own a big farming operation, what are you going to do to keep your operation going? You're going to not only take that labor force, you're not going to ask a lot of questions, and you're sure as hell not going to mind paying them less than you'd have to pay or had been paying to people that don't want the jobs anymore. So here's another idea or another example of the narrative being crafted so that if you're the one losing the job, you're not being directed towards hating the people or, committing the crimes of why are we insisting that these companies make so much profit at the expense of people losing their jobs? Why are we insisting that we pay people more money, which is a fantastic thing, but when you get paid more money, that translates into your product having to cost more money because you can guess that people aren't going to want to have that profit stream decreased. That doesn't look good. So they're going to have to increase their profit. Well, then what happens? You're just going to pay more for the things that you already are struggling to pay for. So, it's a complicated thing. Well, instead of working that problem out, which I don't have the answers to it. I'm not going to sit here and say I have the answers to it, but I know that there have to be answers to that problem. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we can't talk about it because we're so busy being, told those darn, Mexicans, they're stealing our jobs, or, all those poor people. Why are they being exploited like that? That's terrible. We're so busy in those arguments that we don't have time or energy or desire to get at, as you've been saying over and over again, the root cause. What's the root cause? And I can tell you more often than not, it's follow the money. That's where the root cause.
Absolute crime. We're just talking, you take the current state of Florida, of course, all those citrus farmers, they voted a lot of policy. Those policies generated in action a lot of the Latinx. They say, you know what, we're leaving here. You know what I mean? You mean it just, and now they're saying, oh, well, come back. It's just amazing how, again, shoot themselves in the foot for their particular belief system.
And the way it's been crafted. The way it's been crafted.
And the crime, yep, you're right. And again, it's in collusion with governmental authorities. Pay for a specific thing to be addressed or not addressed. And that's where we as a people, again, it's like we have to go back to that thing we were talking about a little bit. Is this thing been done knowingly? Was it done on purpose? And that constitutes a crime. And of course, some of the greatest crimes that have been by our own government.
Yeah. Well, and by... I'm a broken record. I hold the media responsible. I hold our leaders responsible. I hold our businesses responsible. We're all part of it. And folks, I hold us responsible. We have a responsibility. We, as the people of the United States of America, believing that there can be a more perfect union. We came out of a situation with, being ruled by a country that was thousands of miles away under a king or kings that were varying degrees of corruption and various degrees of enjoying the money that we were bringing them through taxation. We fought against that because we knew there was a better way. And we have to, as those same people, be the ones that do that analysis of character or do that informational, exposure. Challenge your biases. There's one thing I appreciate about having been a theater person. I learned early on as an actor, no one sees themselves as an antagonist. We all believe that we believe the things we believe because we have good reason to. And because of that, we don't challenge why we believe those things nearly enough to say, well, maybe I need to have more information about this and consider that there might be other facts, truths, situations, perspectives that are important before I decide what's right or wrong, before I decide what the best course of action for me when I get into that voting booth and cast a vote, or when I buy a product that, my daughter is great at that. She will stop buying from certain groups because she reads about the leadership of that company and is so mad about what they do to their people or what their business practices are. And she'll say, you know what, I'm not shopping there. I'm not buying stuff from that organization because I don't agree with what they're doing. So she votes with her pocketbook. She votes with her dollars, and you can do the same thing with the people you work around, your union. You can do the same thing with the, CEO of a company that you work for and say, or your fellow workers and say, that's not right. What we're doing there, your gossip that you're doing, that you don't know nothing about this and you're spreading rumors about something you know nothing about. Why are you doing that? That's just causing divisionism. That's just, furthering a bias that you don't know. You're just spouting up because you got an opinion and you think your opinion is reality. Well, it's not. It's not. I can guarantee you my opinions aren't reality, but I'm trying to figure out better opinions. I'm trying to figure out more informed. It doesn't make me better than anyone. That just makes me, I'm trying to be responsible. We talk about rights, but we have all kinds of rights. We have a right to freedom of speech. We have a right to freedom of religion, but we have a responsibility too, to make sure that we execute those rights in non-criminal, non-offensive, oppressive, whatever ways that impact other folks in ways that make their lives harder. It's pretty simple when you look at it from the human perspective instead of the things that are being force-fed to us because we want it. It's like we're freaking, we treat information like it's Cheerios or cornflakes or Frosted Flakes or Apple Jacks. I like Apple Jacks. Well, if you eat a steady diet of Apple Jacks, so why is just one side of an equation? The Apple Jacks people aren't going to that's a bad thing, nor is Newsmax, nor is CNN. They're not going to tell you that, they're only giving you a biased one side of the coin. They're fair and balanced. Right. What's fair and balanced anyway? It's having people that don't agree with you. I want to be around people that don't agree with a lot because that's how I learned that, oh, yeah, I never thought about it that. Okay. Now, let me think about that more. That's a good place to be. Antoine, are you still there? Oh, you're listening.
I'm still here.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. That means I must have been saying something maybe I don't know, maybe good. Was I saying something good?
Just a summary of.
So there we are. We could talk about crime for a long time, I think. And here we are at already, an hour. And we keep telling ourselves we're going to try to limit ourselves to 45. Yeah, that happens. So, well, we got to come back to this whole, like a lot of stuff and get some more talking done.
Absolutely.
What do you think? All right.
I agree.
So I don't know what we're talking about next time. Do you know what we're talking about? You got any ideas?
I guess we determined in our.
What about, what are your closing thoughts? And I've been talking a lot. I'm sorry.
No, just again, it's like I would desire it, but actually you're being told something to research it and not just hang on another, regardless of, because again, what we've allowed, alternative you created within this country right before our very, just varying against different disinfamous fault deflection and projection and all these different. So it's like now it's just to go and research things yourself and go outside your normal sphere of information where you get your information from, and see perspective and see what resonates with your spirit, and the research. Because again, we're being misled on every side. We're just going to fight more with what we line up with. But again, it's like we have to really start to be mindful of what we're aligning, because, at the end of the day, it's about humility. Anything absent. So are you loving somebody, or do you really love a thing or a person? And I think the order of the day is love. And so just I'm going to just challenge people to really do their own research, do their own research. Because we can go, like you said, about what is crime, what is not crime, and the end of crime, and the varying degrees of crime. At the end of the day, a lot of things have been done. No, we haven't said anything. So just really research, challenge yourself.
Yeah, that's hard.
Move to make this world better.
Well, and that comes down to if I listen to the other side of an argument, and there's not just one. It does take time, and you got to want to learn. But if I hear something that I am disagreeing with, my first inclination, we'll share it, is to go, that's a bunch of. But then if you can learn to ask a question I've found that's really helpful is to say, but what about it is true? I might not agree with it. I might think that that's a bunch of hope, but I have to also be asking myself, well, what if it is true? What if there is some truth? Because I'd be the first one to admit that anybody that has a point to argue is not telling you the whole picture. They've got an agenda. Mm-hmm. They've got their own bias that they're trying to inform. They've got their own audience that they're trying to speak to. I get it. That's just the way things work. But that, as the person that's consuming you got to be able to ask yourself, well, what if they're not telling me the whole picture? And so now I'm going to find somebody that completely disagrees with them, and they're sure not going to tell me that what that other person is saying is true. They're going to say that they're lying to you, which, okay. That's what I do. When I want to win an argument, I say you're full of hokum on the other side of this. And I'm going to give you another side to think. The things I'm going to say that's negative about them, what if there's some truth to that? And if the things that they're saying that are positive about this discussion are true, what does that say about it? But their truth is going to be biased as well. So we have to challenge our own biases so that we're going to learn more about where's the real answer here. Sometimes it's really, really complicated and you can't come up with an answer. But there's no money to be made in not having an answer. It really isn't. Because that makes people stop and think. And the stopping and thinking it's expensive. Opportunity costs. My mother-in-law used to say that all right, man. So it's always cool. I hope somebody out there got something out of this like I did. I come away going, yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, I didn't think of that. I love that. So,
yes.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Hey, Phil, as always.
Behave. Thanks for listening to Frame of Reference. Coming together. Thanks for coming together, dude.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
See you next time, folks. Or hear you next time.